It's crazy how fast clean energy has been replacing dirty energy all over the world. In the United States, the state of Hawaii was the leader in this because in 2015, it became the first state to commit itself to 100% renewable energy on a timeline. Now, in 2026, the island of Kauaʻi is 12 years ahead of that schedule. In today's episode, I'll talk about why clean energy hits different now with the oil price shocks, what it means for electricity rates, and we'll look at Kauaʻi. We need to grapple with the fact that dirty energy is responding to this. And finally, because this is Edenicity, we'll talk a little bit about how clean energy is starting to restructure cities and possibly civilization. Welcome to Edenicity, living cities for a living world. Here's why clean energy hits different now. In February, of course, the U.S. started this horrendous war in Iran. Very quickly, oil traffic through the Strait of Hormuz was interrupted, and we had price shocks. Oil prices more than doubled. Now, despite the claims that those prices are going to come right back down as soon as the conflict is over, top analysts are predicting that this isn't so. We could be looking at higher fuel prices well into the 2030s, both because instability casts doubt on futures markets, and also for much darker reasons that I will reveal in future episodes. Now, this time around, it isn't just cash-strapped families who are already coping with inflation that are fed up with this and taking action. It's whole nations. And France has shifted support away from cars and planes and toward rail and walkable cities. They've also shifted subsidies from gas to electrification. According to CNBC, Britain responded to the Iran war energy shock by requiring solar panels and heat pumps in all new homes. Now, this is a lot of policy change, and it can't happen without money moving around. So the big question is, as we shift from fossil fuels to renewables, what will this do to prices? And here we come back to the island of Kauaʻi. Now, this was an island that used to have insane energy prices. Electricity here used to cost at least 3 times as much as it does on the mainland. But Kauaʻi had also recently formed an energy co-op when the state committed itself to its renewable mandates. Here's a complete picture of what the state committed itself to. The renewable portfolio standards went from 10% renewables in 2010 to 100% in 2045, with milestones along the way. The Renewable Portfolio Standard became state law in 2015. In that year, the state was doing pretty well, meeting that standard. Even the most populous island, Oahu, had 15% renewable electricity in that year. But just a few years earlier, Kauaʻi was nowhere near that. In 2011, it was 8% renewable, with a goal of somewhere around 11% for that year. So it was lagging, and at that time, its electricity prices were the highest in the state. Now, by 2021, it was 64% renewable versus the state's goal by that year of 31%. So they were making more than twice as much progress as required by the state. That's a huge transition, and you might think it would come at a really big cost. But here are the energy prices for all of the islands during roughly the same time period. In 2011, Kauaʻi's electricity costs were among the highest. And by 2023, after they'd put in all that clean energy infrastructure, they had the lowest electric rates in the state. As Kauaʻi Island Utility Co-op CEO David Bissell has pointed out, with these projects, they're also essentially buffered from oil price instability. So they're no doubt doing even better today. Now, they could have rested on their laurels, but because it was already saving energy, they wisely chose to pick up the pace. So this year in May, they were approved to put in more solar panels and grid storage batteries that would bring them up to 90% clean energy by 2030, which in that year is expected to save that island $13.4 million alone. They also predict $800 million in savings over 25 years, which works out to about $20,000 per household over that time frame. And according to CEO Bissell, again, if they were in service today, and he's talking about the facilities going into place by 2030, our average residential member would be paying about $27 less for their electricity in May. So this is a pivotal moment. Renewables give us a whole new cost curve. And the big question today is, will your city make the jump to clean energy? Now, if it were just a matter of accounting and logic, of course they would, everywhere in the world. But it's not just a matter of accounting and logic. The fossil fuel industry spent $219 million to elect the new U.S. government. And in return, President Trump gutted electric vehicle subsidies and shut down solar and wind projects. But of course, it gets worse. With the war in Iran, dirty energy is making record profits, and unfortunately pouring a lot of those profits back into paid influence. Fossil fuel influence is subtle. The objections we think we have to clean energy were carefully seeded in the media over many years. Kind of like that movie Inception. Just to give you a sense of how true this is, here are some of the arguments that you'll see all over the world where liquid natural gas is being used to power data centers. Now, in Hawaii, we don't have data centers, but there is a sudden push to build a liquid natural gas power plant and abandon our clean energy plans, which I covered in some detail 3 episodes ago. So here's how this turns into objections to clean energy on Oahu, the most populous island in the state. Objection 1. Clean energy won't scale. Oahu has 14 times more people than Kauaʻi. I've even heard clean energy advocates say this. So here's how to respond. Scale is not an objection. It's just a design variable. Oahu's electric grid may be 14 times bigger, but it also has 14 times more paying customers. Scale is not a barrier. Also, upgrading Honolulu to clean energy will cost a lot less per household than it did on Kauai because the solar panels keep getting cheaper every year. Kauai is also a much tougher case than most locations because they weren't able to put in onshore wind generators because of endangered seabirds. And wind generators are even cheaper than solar and also getting cheaper every year. Worse yet, the island couldn't even lean on a national grid to pick up the slack because the nearest national grid is thousands of miles away. So what I'm trying to say is that even though clean energy was cheap on Kauai, there are many factors that can make it cheaper in most other places. Here's another objection that we hear. Kauai still uses some diesel. 100% solar is still unproven. Well, nobody's talking about 100% overnight. The real question is, given how fast solar is proving itself, does it make any sense at this point to build new fossil fuel facilities that lock us into 30 to 40 years of fossil fuel purchases? If we need power now, the thing to do is get it through clean energy because it's the cheapest and quickly becoming the most reliable, as I'll show later in the series. Now, a related objection is what's going to keep Oahu's grid stable during the transition. Now, the backstory there is Oahu already has oil backup. We don't need a new liquid natural gas terminal. And by the time a new gas terminal could be built, which would be 2030 at the very earliest, Kauai will already be 90% renewable. We have no excuse on this island not to do the same. Also, by 2030, wind, solar, and battery storage are likely to cost half as much as they do today. So it even makes sense to overbuild wind and solar generation, which improves reliability and opens the door to new industries such as e-fuels, which I covered in episode 165. Here's what I'm most enthused about. Clean energy is on a course to restructure cities and possibly civilization itself. Here's how. Clean energy is the cheapest form of energy out there. You can install it nearly anywhere, and then there's no fuel to buy. You just keep getting energy free for decades. This cracks the dominant worldview. The idea that power comes from hoarding scarce resources has shaped civilization for thousands of years, and now we have the possibility of abundant, widely available clean energy, which can bring prosperity and healing on a scale that civilization has never known. Because this is a really, really big shift, I've mapped out 28 long-form episodes, plus twice as many shorts, that build the case piece by piece for how clean energy is winning, with real-world proof like we saw today, with lower costs, more reliability, a cleaner environment, cleaner supply chains, better finance, better social justice, replacing petrochemicals, and finally, having laid the foundation piece by piece, unlocking civilizational change so that Edenicity comes to life. I know it's a lot, but this is a big change, and it affects everyone. I know a community builder in Vallejo, California. His name is Richard Abbott, and he likes to say, we've already made the transition. Believe it and act accordingly. By about mid-series, to prepare all of us to act accordingly, I'll gather the receipts into a download that you can use to win this energy battle. In person, against trolls online, in town hall meetings, you'll have everything you need to make the case. That's coming in a couple of months. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the drop. And of course, I'll be releasing early drafts to the very patient patrons who have supported this channel. I'm so grateful for your support. All right, here are some of the episodes I talked about earlier, and this one will be here next week. Take care, stay green. See you next time.